I first became aware of Samantha Nutt through Denise Donlin. Is Denise in the house today, this afternoon? No, I saw her yesterday. Yeah, Denise? Ah, there you are, my dear. Okay, well, Denise was running Much Music at the time, and she had committed not only her own resources, but those of Much Music in support of something called War Child. It was the first time I came across it. War Child, an organization that works with people in the entertainment and music industries to help children caught in the middle of wars. Samantha mixes medical work abroad with consciousness raising at home. And I took note of this in the story I was reading about her, that a high school teacher of hers once wrote that this all-Canadian girl next door, she's a cutie pie, that, quote, she's a disruptive force in a sound environment. I like that. And today, I know we can say that, in fact, it's the reverse. She's a sound force in a disruptive environment who sees health as a way to get to the broader issues, which is to say, the human rights issues. Where is she? Samantha, ah, there you are. Thank you.
Thank you and good evening. Actually, that was my physics teacher that called me a disruptive force. So I'm sure the irony isn't wasted on many of you in this crowd. Anyway, my name, as mentioned, is Samantha Nutt, and I'm a medical doctor. And I've spent the better part of the last 10 years working in zones of armed conflict, places like Burundi and Liberia, Somalia, Iraq, Afghanistan, the Thai-Burmese border, the Congo, Sierra Leone, and northern Uganda. And I am the executive director of War Child Canada, which is a Canadian charity. And we work, as the name would suggest, in war-torn countries all around the world, helping kids. And we do that by providing health, education, and psychosocial support programs. But we also do that by working really hard with young Canadians right across the country to help get them involved in human rights causes, and also to get them thinking about their role in the world as good global citizens. And part of the way that we're able to do that is through an association that we have with the music community here in Canada, which we tribute to the wonderful passions of Denise Donlin, as Moses mentioned in the introduction, and also to the many artists that support our cause, including Chantal Kreviazuk and Rain Maida, Avril Lavigne, bands like Sum 41. But that's not what I'm here to talk about exclusively today, although obviously it's very, very important to me. But what I really want to talk to you about today, over the course of the next 18 minutes, is really this. This is a venue for us to talk about ideas. In fact, it says ideas that change the world. And inherent in that, implicit in that message, is a sense, to me, of idealism, of what we can all do to make this world a better place. And idealism is often seen as a derogatory word, but it isn't. In fact, for me, I couldn't do what I do when I get up every single day if I didn't believe that it was possible to make a difference. And the change that I want to see in the world is that I want to see the world become a better place for the millions of people, in fact, billions of people. An estimated 1/3 of the world's population is living in areas where there is active war, to make the world a better place for those civilians caught in the crossfire of war. What does this require? Well, it actually requires a dramatic shift in the global paradigm around war. It might sound like an empty platitude to some of you, so I'm going to explain what I mean by giving you a few field experiences. I was in Somalia in 1994, working for UNICEF, and I was based in Baidoa, which is in south-central Somalia. During the early 1990s, Baidoa was called the City of Death by Western journalists because 250,000 people died in that city. Starvation was still rampant throughout the country. Very few buildings remained intact. And war had destroyed virtually everything in its path. Schools were deserted, riddled with bullet holes. Health services had been driven to a halt. I was absolutely appalled by the sheer horror and the insecurity and absurdity of war. But by far, the most shocking thing for me as a doctor and as a humanitarian was the sheer number of guns in the country. AK-47s, rocket-propelled grenades, and machine guns were absolutely everywhere. Somalia was quite literally drowning in weapons. And where did those weapons come from? Well, they came from mostly China, Russia, and the United States. They're all locally available and at very low cost. So why does it matter? Why does it matter that there were so many guns in Somalia? It matters because gangs of teenage boys carrying automatic rifles thrived with impunity, killing and seizing whatever stood in their way. Somalia is no exception in that regard. In fact, in every country in which I have worked, I have come face to face with children, some as young as 8, who have never been to school, but who have fought and who have killed with Kalashnikov rifles. There are an estimated 70 million AK-47s in the world. They are virtually indestructible, and they can be purchased for as little as $6 on most illegal markets in Africa. In addition to that, some of you might be thinking, well, it was the early 90s. I can understand that there would have been a lot of weapons left in the country after the end of the Cold War. Well, in actual fact, we are currently supplying more weapons to developing countries than at any time in the past 5 years. 70% of all weapons sold right now are purchased by developing countries, and 90% of those come from the 5 permanent members of the United Nations Security Council. Something to be ashamed of. So when you think about what it means to create a new paradigm around how we look at war, to change the way the world thinks about war, we need to think about how we are going to restrict the manufacturing and the supply of small and light weapons around the world.